morning, Richard. How are you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Marewa. How are you getting on this morning?
I am great. Slightly nervous because we are turning the tables today and I am going to sit you're in the hot seat. I'm going to be on this end asking you the questions. I guess the reason we really wanted to have this chat today is to get some insight into what an athlete does when it comes to nutrition and specifically around the coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
As we lead into the race, we're only 3 months out, give or take. And we get hammered with athletes wanting to really upskill their education around the coast to coast. So we think some really practical advice around what you have done and your experience will just be so valuable. So thanks for your time.
Nice. Yeah, no, sounds good. Easy. Happy to share. I guess the key thing is this is what I've probably the last 5 years have been kind of racing and trying to push the boundaries a bit for myself. And this is what I've kind of got to. And I think it's probably, so this is just mine. It's not something necessarily that would work for you based on the time that I'm taking through the course. You might be faster, you might be slower. But I think my initial nutrition has probably just been simplified, I think, over the last few years is probably a summary of that through into this year.
Cool, incredible. And I think what I'm hearing from you is the longer you practice, the longer you get to implement these nutrition strategies, the more you can refine them and actually simplify them down a little bit, which is really cool.
Yeah, and not trying to sort of be the advertising side of things, but I think the pure performance is something that, as I talk through the different stages, that's helped to do that. And I think one thing with the coast to coast is that it's a balance of fueling and carbohydrate, depending on how fast you're going, but also making sure you're not getting hungry. And that's one thing I really found this year is that that product meant that I wasn't getting hungry like I would previously. So I ended up just using it more and more, and obviously practiced it for a few times before race day, but it's always different on race day as well. So I guess I had a couple of wee backup plans as well, just in case it didn't go exactly to plan. But yeah, that's what it ended up being.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And for context, I think so the Pure Performance Plus is the race fuel. So it's the all-in-one nutrition. So it's very high carbohydrate because it uses cluster dextrin. It's up to that 90 grams, as well as quite heavy on the electrolytes and can hydrate you depending on the concentration. And we are finding that the cluster dextrin absorbs at a rate that does curb that hunger. So that is something that's come out a lot for those ultra endurance athletes. And again, as you say, what works for one person might not work for another. So it's quite interesting to see, the feedback on any of this nutrition stuff. So I think what I'd love to know is pre-race. I guess I want to talk about training. Like, do you try and do exactly what you do on race day in training, or do you choose some of your trainings to replicate race day, or do you just try and use real food and then save your supplements till race day? How does that work? Yeah,
I tend to just have key days that I'll go and I'm going to do exactly what I do on race day and try and play with that, both intensity and duration. And ideally it's over the course because that's the best way to do it. And outside of that, I guess long training runs are often probably pretty food-based. Try and keep them pretty simple. And probably don't overdo in the shorter sessions, the nutrition either. So it's really just key sessions for me and making sure that I nail those so then I know what it feels like, because I think it's that intensity bit as well, making sure that you can actually cope with the nutrition that you're aiming for. Can I actually eat the smoothie bar when I'm puffing lots?
Yeah. No, that sounds spot on. And so leading up to race week, do you do anything differently? Obviously you taper towards your event or have easier days.
Yep. I probably don't do anything super special. In terms of carbohydrate loading, it's not something that I sort of overdo necessarily, but I do try and make sure that I have a sports drink with me sort of in the days leading up. And I find that sort of just emphasize it, like having a drink of juice or a drink of sports drink, because it's got your electrolytes and your sugars in there, is more than what I would normally have anyway. So I guess that's my version of carbohydrate loading to a point. So doing that, and then that's sort of a race morning, making sure I get a bottle of sports drink in the morning of as well. So that's mainly what I do in the days leading up.
Yeah, cool. And breakfast, do you eat, because it's an early start, right? What time do you set off?
So breakfast is generally about 5 or so. I'm generally last to breakfast compared like with all the people. so downing that as sort of late as I can, but sort of getting it in. But I don't do anything special with my breakfast. It's just the normal breakfast I usually have. It's muesli and a bit of yogurt, milk, some fruit underneath it, kind of thing, and that's pretty much it. And as I said, that bottle of sports drink, and then had a bar and a banana as a in my sort of drop bag, I guess, that I may or may not have. I've actually never used that because my breakfast seems fine. So, yeah, that's a couple of hours before start, which is probably as close as you'd want to be before start in terms of that breakfast, but that seems to be fine and has worked well.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, cool. And then do you have anything like on the start line or just go in?
So that's basically just a bottle of sports drink, really. I had a gel this year. Did I have a gel? I think I did have a gel just before the start line. And so I did do that. I haven't previously. It's that whole bit about the energy side of things. What am I doing? Is it sitting well? But yeah, actually I did have a gel just before the start this year. So that's a little bit just to see how you feel depending on nerves, if I need to feel, if I eat something or not.
Yep, agree. And I think while the science says you can top up before you start your blood sugars, it's a balance, because if you start feeling sick or nauseous, that's not going to be a help.
Yeah, no, that's not a good place. So I do remember my brother doing that, like having a big breakfast and then throwing it up on the start line because he was too fired up. So no, that's not a good look.
Yeah, love it. All right, so first ride, we've got 55 kilometers. So what do you do? I guess you just run us through what you do.
Yeah. So I actually just went through, I didn't get to the kayak beforehand, but just sort of how long it was taking as well, because I think that gives context on it as well. So the first run, obviously it's just all in and it's as hard as you possibly can. Basically, it wasn't quite that this year, but it was getting pretty hard towards the end. So that was about 8 minutes. And then the ride was an hour and a half, hour 36. So basically I had 2 drink bottles on my bike, so of the race fuel, and got through 1.5, basically one and almost the second one basically before I started the run. So it's not quite 2 hours of exercise. So there's that, and then also had on my bike had some like muesli bar chopped into 3 bits, and I think I had half of one of those in there. It was the type of thing, like, I didn't actually feel like I needed it, but that's what I'd done in the past. So I'm going to have just one little bite. Usually I'd have a whole bar, but I only just had one bite of it just because that's what I've done. So I better have that and see how that goes. So that was the first stage. And then the mountain run, basically I did something a wee bit different this time around. So I actually made that race fuel up like a gel. I'm not sure you might be looking to do that at some point, but it takes a bit to actually mix. But what I've found in mixing, and you'll be able to tell more about this, but basically if you mix it once and then just walk away and do something else, it comes back, just kind of settles a bit, and then you can mix it again and it seems to be fine. So that's a lot of scoops to try and double the mixture sort of thing. It's a lot with just like one drink bottle, but it was half the water and double the mixture. So it was effectively like a gel. So the run took me around about 4 hours. So that meant that I was needing to have basically like a drink bottle size, a 750 amount 4 times. So basically I halved that. So I had that race fuel in 2 soft flasks. So it was quite thick, but it was thin enough that I could actually suck it through the top of the soft flask. And that was kind of my gel. That's what I ended up doing. And then the other thing I did is over the last few years, I've dropped all my gels into a soft flask rather than having to deal with wrappers, because I find sticking wrappers away is a bit of a pain when you're running over Goat Pass. And then also they get a bit sticky and things like that as well, and making sure you don't lose the little top bit over the mountain run. So I've just had them in a soft flask, and I've basically have a swig of that. And then and the other thing I've done with that is it's hard to know how much a swig is. That's the beauty of a gel. You know, you're getting 25 grams of carbohydrate. So I basically tested that. How much is a swig? Spit it into a measuring cup. And okay, that's about how much. So you kind of have a bit of an idea, because you can take just a little sip or a proper swig. So that's good. But then I think the other reason why this works on the mountain run is because there's water everywhere. Like I don't drink across the first river crossing just because it comes out of Arthur's Pass and it's told to be dodgy. But as I get into it, I'll be drinking through every river crossing. And what I've found is sometimes when I'm trying to really get cranking on the carbohydrate intake is that my stomach just goes like, oh, I don't feel great. This isn't quite right. But what I've found is if I just basically just keep drinking water, it settles down after 15 to 20 minutes and I'll just kind of keep carrying on with it. So basically my job was I've got 2 soft flasks full of the pure race fuel is just get into the swing of it and just get it done. And it's better to be carried in me rather than sort of carrying it and getting over the finish line with it. With this year,
do you use to drink the water, Richard? Do you just use your hands or do you take a cup?
Oh, this is a bit of a secret one. I don't think we've ever said this.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. Basically, what I do is it's the goldfish technique. So you go to the pet shop and you have a plastic bag with the goldfish in it. Basically, I've got a snap-lock bag and I scoop it with a snap-lock bag, and and then you've got a bit of a hole, and then you can drink it. But what I found is that the soft flasks are better these days with a bigger neck, but what I found is when you're trying to fill the soft flask, it takes a bit of filling.
Yes.
When I've used a cup, you sort of can have a drink, but the cup spills lots as you go, so you can sort of only drink as you're in the river crossing. The soft flask, I think, is really good because you can fill it up, put the lid on it, and then you've got some with you. So, but I found it just takes a bit long. So I just got a plastic bag, scoop it up, and then you can hold the neck of it and you can run for a while with it in your hand and then drink it. And then when you've had enough, you just empty it out and just shove the plastic bag up underneath your shorts. And
that
then
is so cool. Have you ever caught a fish with it? No.
I haven't. No, not yet. No. I'm looking. I did go paddling with my son Nate down the Waimak last year in a double, and he took his fishing rod. Actually hooked a fish just below the Hamilton Rapids, which was pretty fun. But yeah, no fishing.
That could be another nutrition strategy: raw fish.
Get the barbecue going.
Yeah, that's incredible. In terms of the soft flasks, so I think, did you say it's about a 4-hour-ish run? Did you say you go through 2 500 mils or?
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was doing. Yeah.
So does each 500 mils have 2 serves of?
Yes.
1. 2. Yeah.
2. Yeah.
So you're going to do 4 serves.
What was it? Sorry.
You're trying to aim for those 4 serves of.
Yeah, that was what I was shooting for. Yep. And got through it all. I did actually take, as I mentioned, I actually took a third smaller soft flask with just your standard gels in, pineapple gels. And I actually tried that about in the sort of first major river crossing as you come off Goat Pass before Dudley's Knob. And I had a swig of that. I was like, oh, that's not good. So I actually just emptied it out and didn't use that at all. So I had that as a bit of a backup, not sure how, not knowing exactly how it's going to go. Yep.
Definitely good having options because some days, you never know.
Yeah, that's right. I do talk about that a lot, the old options, like just because you don't know exactly how you're going to feel. So it's good to have a bit of that. And sometimes it's good just to raise team morale, to have a little bit of something a bit different. It's quite nice.
Be more demanding to your team.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember I crewed 1 year for a friend, and her favourite gel in the world was a mango gel, but something on this day, she just would not touch a mango gel. But because she'd fully stocked up with mango gels, she was like, no mango gel. So it was this big panic because we had to try and find these other types of gels. And it was quite funny looking at.
She's got boxes and boxes of them. Yeah, I do. Very first, I was at second year I did Coast to Coast. I got like one of the guys I was flatting with he must have had a deal with Mother Earth bars or something like that, and they fell off the back of the truck, and I pretty much ate them the whole summer, and I could not touch them again, the Sultana ones. Oh, that was hard yards. Yeah, so a bit of variety in training is useful too. Don't just sort of commit to just that same flavour.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip. Yep. Alrighty, so then we've got recovery after the mountain run.
Yeah, so 2-day, obviously, that's different from the longest day. So recovery is super, super key. So pretty much what I did is downed a bottle of sports drink as soon as I finished, a whole bottle. That's obviously hydration and getting some sugars back on board as soon as I could, and then had the pure recovery. And it's awesome that there's more protein in it than there used to be as well. So basically, the beauty of that I found, and for various other mountain bike races and things, you can have it not made up, just add water, shake it up, and then you can start drinking it. So went and sat in the creek in the cold creek while drinking that down at the same time. So that was sort of the first step to recovery. And then pretty much after that, it's really just an eat-a-thon. How much can you eat and continue to eat, and you fight, and then you're just sick of eating, sort of thing. So that's pretty much what the rest of the day entails, really.
Yeah. And do you find you can get an early night in there, or is it tricky after a buzzy day of racing?
Yeah, again, like I've finished relatively early, like it's lunchtime-ish. So, but there's obviously it's pretty social and pretty fun there as well. We do quite a bit with support crew, so there's a bit of admin to do outside of just me, so helping others out too. So, but it's a matter of getting gear organised as soon as I possibly can for the next day, and then just have some time to kind of relax a little bit as well. In the deck chair, sort of watching other people and having some yarns and things.
Yeah. I often joke with Sandra that you've got the easier day out racing.
That. Yeah. She jokes to me about how precious I am, sort of thing, these limit athletes. So
how many athletes do you look after like for next year? Do you know how many you've got on the cards?
We've got around about 40 for both events, so the longest day and the 2-day, around about 30 2-day athletes. So it's quite a system in terms of getting things sorted and people knowing what they're doing and things. But we've got Sandra and the crew and Eddie and Leighton and Matt, etc. That we've got a really good core group of people that know what they're doing. So it's been really interesting for me to kind of step back from that and race as an athlete. Help a little bit, but not sort of have to try and do all of it. So
that's pretty incredible.
It's fun to share. I think that's the best part about it, and that's why the 2 days so good.
Alongside these athletes while the team,
Yeah. Seeing how they get on and how they're going in their day and sort of helping them out a little bit here and there.
No, it's very cool. Yep. Alrighty then. So we've got Saturday morning. What time do you get to sleep in, or?
It's relatively asleep, and I think so. Pretty much. Start is at 7 or 7:30. I feel like it was 7 this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something like that. But pretty much an hour and a half before, sort of up and having breakfast. So breakfast is at 6. Feel like again, there's other people up before me, but when you're not running, it's easier to have breakfast, like a proper breakfast. Without running is harder to cope with. So it's pretty much the same breakfast and underway for the day there. It's always interesting to see those people that haven't or have done the mountain run, hobbling, and who has done the mountain run that morning. But yeah, that bike ride this year, the bike ride was as fast as ever. Like it was 21 minutes, which is insane because we had a massive tailwind behind us. It was heaps of fun actually. But so I basically had half a bottle of the race fuel, so about 300 mils or so, and I drank a bit of it before we started actually. So, and then I actually had another drink bottle that I gave to Sandra before we kicked off. So that was the extra one, and that so that the idea was that generally that ride's about half an hour or so to take. So drinking half a bottle of sports drink. So I definitely got some. I didn't get it all done on that bike ride, but I don't think it's quite so important because it is easier to get the nutrition and hydration in while you're in the boat anyway. So. Yeah. So I just took what I needed rather than taking a whole drink bottle on that bike ride. And then into the boat, the kayak is around 4.5 hours ish, that sort of range. So basically, again, I had in my boat, I've got a drink system that has 2 bladders. I actually have 3 options. So I've got a soft flask down the front, and I've got a drink system that has 2 bladders sitting in the back of the boat. So I've got 3 things that I can have. I could have water, gels, I could have some sports drink, and I've got some recovery fuel that I use as well. So basically the recovery fuel is kind of my food. So it's because when you're kayaking, especially in the longest day, you find that you actually just start getting hungry. So it's the food you can eat, but I can suck it through a straw, so I don't have to put my paddle down, which works really well. It just fills you up a little bit. So I don't have any muesli bars or anything on top of that. And it's always tricky to see what I'm going to use where, because my soft flask at the front is smaller and the bladders at the back are like 3 litres. So I've got heaps of options there. So basically this year I went a little bit of the recovery fuel in the front. So I didn't have a huge amount of that sort of foodie type thing. And then I had race fuel in the back, and then I had some water in the back as well. So the race fuel was quite concentrated. The water is good just to kind of clear your mouth out, so it's not sugary all the time. And then a little bit of the the recovery fuel to keep going. So basically, that was pretty much my race kayak strategy effectively, and got through sort of 3 liters of that race fuel during the paddle. So
am I right in saying that's a guessing game?
Yeah, because you don't quite know how much you're having. It's also a temperature thing as well, a little bit. Like it's not, because we're paddling in the morning, like 7:30. So often, like the sun's coming up, which can be really tricky, and it's not warm. So what I've found in the past, I've had just like your standard sports drink, but you don't want to make it. You want to make. I find making your sports drink up a bit more concentrated, but having water as an option works better, because otherwise you end up having to just go to the toilet heaps, and that is hard work in the boat as well. So yeah.
Cool. And the recovery, is that the same recovery you had after the end of the stage 1?
Just the chocolate recovery. I find it's quite tasty. I like it. So
and it's got carbs in it with the honey, got the protein and also electrolytes. So that's a great option for that food fatigue, which sometimes multi staged events have. So
cool.
Hard to clean out, right?
What was that? Sorry.
Hard to clean out of the bladders, the race fuel and the recovery.
It's probably the bladders are fine. It's the tubes that you've got to make sure that you do that relatively soon afterwards. Just make sure wash them out properly.
And I'm assuming a lot of athletes put the kayak away for the year.
There's a little bit of that happening, and I've done that before as well. Like it sat on the back lawn for a week or 2, and it's like, those tubes are pretty much done.
Yuck.
So it's not ideal.
And then ride.
Oh, just a note on the paddle. I do have a bilge pump in my boat, so if I do happen to drink too much and have to go to the toilet too much, I'm pumping it out as well, so it's not too bad.
Oh, cool. So is that the norm for kayakers to pee in their kayak? I guess?
It tends to depend. I guess it's a bit of what are your standards? How are you racing? Do you want to stop?
Well, you're a multi-sporter, so
standards are pretty low. So it is part of it a little bit. I do find actually, if you do stop and have a stretch, it does make a massive difference to your outlook on life when you're paddling the boat, and makes a lot. Just like in the same thing if you're riding your bike for a long, long time. If a stop and a stretch makes a big difference, but no, there's none of that. Just kind of carrying on.
I say in all my nutrition talks is what you taught me with the marathon running and the half. When you get to an aid station, reset, take in your nutrition, and then carry on, and you'll make up that time as you go. So it's mentally and physically, isn't it? Just using some different muscles for a moment. Yes. Great advice.
Nice.
All right, so kayak finishes. Do you have anything in the zone there, or?
No, it's really it's pretty busy. Like for me, I want to try and get through the transition as quick as I possibly can. So it's just about getting changed and getting on the bike quickly. This year I had a guy just behind me, so I was kind of a bit more relaxed actually, because I know I just needed to be on the bike in front of him, that he would probably pick me up. So that was fine. That was good. So I did that, and on the bike and away. So and the other side of it with the kayak is to be nutritionally in pretty good shape. So then you're going well at that stage, rather than I feel like I need lots to eat. So and with that chocolate milk drink, that sort of makes a difference, I think, to that. So you're not sort of hungry too much. And in the past on the bike, I've had a muesli bar, and I've had a few other bits and pieces and gels and all sorts of other things, but I've really found that I just haven't used them. Baby food is one thing I've used in the past, which is quite nice as just a palate cleanser sort of thing. It's a bit zesty, it's a bit of something kind of thing, and you can just kind of drink it down. But this year I didn't really have any of that. It was just the 2 bottles of race fuel on my bike, and we're into it. And this year the bike ride was like half an hour faster than what I've ever done before, because we had a massive tailwind basically behind us. So we did like an hour 45 or something like that, versus like 2 hours 10 compared to 2 hours-ish of what it would normally be. So it was just sitting on 50 k's an hour-ish and just getting it done in a hurry. So that definitely helps team morale and gets here quicker. So and that was pretty much it.
What I'm seeing is when you're fueled really well on your day 1, and I think that does pay off to help with day 2 as well. Whereas once fatigue hits in these things, it's so hard to claw back and recover. So it's about getting that nutrition in early and keeping it steady the whole way through the event, and not dropping the ball. And then come day 2, I think from what you're saying, it's icing on the cake.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally agree. And I think by practicing with that, for me, like it's kind of 6 hours each day ish. So I find much more than that. I need some actually, like I find 5 hours I can do just like sports drink and gels and things. What I found in the past, I think as I've mentioned, the race fuel helps, meaning that I don't get so hungry. But I feel like beyond that, I'd need to start having some actual food to start eating. So I'm kind of it's sort of on that edge. Do I need something to eat? But I've kind of got a couple of those options anyway up my sleeve,
which is
especially
a
with
really
that
good. I think that's a really good point for the athletes that will stretch it out in terms of their timing, and just to have those food options available, whether it's at transition or in the pocket as well. So
yes, yeah. No, that's it.
So you're on the start line next year.
I'm going to do it differently. Like as I mentioned, I've sort of done this 2-day last 5 years or so. I had a bit of a break. I did it competitively way back in 2001 when I first started this craziness. And I've decided this year we're just going to do the mountain run. So I find the training is fine. It's just challenging that whole Christmas period with family and things like that to try and feel like you need to go paddling, and how about a bike ride as well. So just doing some running will be easy. So easier, simpler, which is nice.
Oh no, you're going to be reeled into working for the rest of the weekend.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the trouble. I'm not looking forward to, because you have to do the run down to the kayak after the mountain run the next day. That's the bit I'm not looking forward to. So 1K downhill, that's going to be interesting. So we'll see how I go. Yeah,
that will be interesting.
But yes, other than that, Sandra, we're on the tools this time around.
Yeah, and on the comms. Will you do some exactly.
Yes, that's the plan. Yep, we'll do that. So Angus is racing. He usually does that. So he's doing some bike running. So I'll pick up a bit of that as well, which would be quite fun.
Very cool. Oh, your team. We love that. We love the spark that Team CP bring to the event. It's very cool and very inspiring. So
yeah, it's fun to be involved with it with a lot of people and to share that. And I think that's where the 2 days so good is that's where the people are. That's where the vibe is.
Yes.
As far as the event goes.
Yeah, I agree. And I would urge if people are interested in the event or maybe looking at doing it one day, come on into Klondike Corner, because this year was the first year I went there, and it was like a festival in the mountains. It was so incredible watching these athletes come through. You hear these stories. It's just, it's so amazing. Like I wonder how many people went home that day and said, right, I'm entering for next year. Like it's very cool.
It is pretty cool, right, isn't it? And then also the other bit is, if you're close to Christchurch, the out to Sheffield and the end of the paddle was a really good spot to go and see people as well. Unfortunately, this year it was nor'west and horrible. Usually come around the corner, it was just a party time and there's kids and playing in the river and all sorts. But this year there was just nobody, because it was just awful down there. So that's a good spot for families and people to come and see the event as well.
Yeah, incredible. And then obviously the finish line goes off right into the night, which I think I couldn't leave. Like I started, I thought I'll leave at 7 or 8, and that's when the stories start coming through of these finishes. It's pretty incredible. So. Yeah,
that's right. So that's probably part of my recovery nutrition as well, because I wait till our last athlete arrives. So basically I'll finish at like 2:00, but I'm not leaving till like 11, not getting home till after midnight kind of thing. So making sure like it's an eat-a-thon for the rest of the day as well, just whatever I can get my hands on. But you wouldn't be anywhere else, because it's heaps of fun, and being part of that whole event is pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Hey, well, thank you for your time, Richard. I think we've covered a lot there, really practical tips.
Cool. Hopefully that was useful. And and all the best for those that are listening to this. Make sure you do go and practice it, trial it, and have some options, I think, is the key bit.
Yeah, I love how you said do it on the course, when you're doing the actual, bits as well, making sure it fits in with the terrain, and the intensity is another key thing as well. And weather can change. There's so many variables with weather which can affect nutrition as well. So lots to think about, but still time to practice.
yeah, that's awesome. Oh, thank you very much. And thanks for turning the tables and asking me some questions for a change.
Oh, I loved it. I think this is could be my new job.
Well.
Thanks,
well done, Marewa. Okay, thanks. Catch up soon.
Catch you later.
See ya. Bye.